This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a must. This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Oh, wait a second. There we are.
Whoa. Hey. That was weird. I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing.
Well, with that intro, welcome to Crush This, a monster truck podcast. I am your host, as always, Brad Shaw, and with me since day one, Mr. Dan Chichagash. Dan, how are you doing, buddy? Oh, the new logo that I designed today.
Oh, hey, well, hey, look at that. That's pretty cool stuff right there, bud. I did that on purpose. Okay, how do you get this thing off?
I kind of have it
There
in
we
the
go.
background of my thing with my green screen, and also I dyed my hair up randomly. Okay, it's up on the screen again. Let me get it off. There we go.
It popped up. There we go. Am I still having a little delay?
Let me handle this switching in and out of things.
Well, that's the first thing you're at about, Brad. Gosh darn it.
Hey, I blame Frontier on this one, dude.
Yeah, I'm in a sticky situation because at that point could go and find a new place. So I don't want to really pay for internet when I could possibly be leaving from a new place and whatnot. So I'm in that little area, but outside of that, welcome fans. How's it going? We're having a good time. Once again, thank you, High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, who's in the second.
You're
know.
still
I'm not gonna,
lagging.
I don't know.
You're gonna have to switch to your phone again, Cheech.
Nah, I'm still good.
You're
Hello?
lagging bad.
Hello. I don't care.
Okay.
Shoot.
Well, we're gonna
I
keep
even
on
got
going
my
here.
Wi-Fi off too.
We're gonna keep on going here. So thanks to High Octane Coffee, J Concepts like Cheech's shirt there, Backshot Productions with Nick Davis, 6B Apparel. We have our crew shirts, $100 a pop. Either message me or Cheech on those. We have the old school design or the new logo. And we also have JP Scale Graphics on board. And let me bring it up one more time. Bradshaw Design.
Hello. Get that
You're
stuff
still-
out of there.
You're still your camera's laggy, but your audio's good. So hopefully that'll be better.
Okay, so what? My camera's laggy or my audio is good?
Your camera's laggy, but your audio's good.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that, folks. I got a little bit fixed up. But, like Brad said, Bradshaw Designs, and also next week I have Rodney Tweedy on, so that's gonna be pretty cool. This week we got some cool folks on. Back by popular demand, a lot of people request this guy to have his story to tell, and then we have one gentleman from J Concepts here, Mr. Fred Reap. He's here too. We'll talk a little bit, but this gentleman, he was on our USA Roundtable meeting, and he also did some cool RC stuff last week, and I was in it on their RC group, and it was pretty fun stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But he is more popular on driving Bigfoot monster trucks, even though he had his own truck and he drove a few others. We'll talk about his story. He did an audio version with us a few months back, but wouldn't mind having him on the video podcast here. So we'll bring Mr. Lonny Childress and Mr. Fred Reap on. See if
How's it going, everybody?
Brad, you can. Hello.
Oh, there we go.
What's going on, guys?
What's happening?
Hello.
Good to see you guys.
And not much. Just, I don't know. When it comes to showtime, seems like my side of the ballpark goes to crap, but we'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But so, how's your guys' evening going? Let's actually first start off with you guys did the RC racing this weekend. Cheech was there. Lonny, you guys were obviously hosting it. How did that all go for you guys?
You know, it's always a good time. We regularly run with Trigger Kings, but they started running an outdoor series and didn't really have a place this winter to go inside. So Jason and I decided we were going to see if we could find a building, and we did here in Sullivan where we live. And so we started, I think, in December. And so this was our fourth event, I believe, and we got one more in March that we're going to do. A lot of fun. We're just running the retro trucks and the sport mods, kind of the era that we raced in back in the day, and do some Penda style, some Chicago style. So, kind of it's funny that we did the USA thing last week, because that's kind of what we're doing with the RC racing stuff too, is kind of, we would do a straight line race and then we would go do a Chicago style race, to fill out the program when we ran with USA. So kind of what we're doing here, and just having a good time doing it.
You're right on. We had some fun time. It was a good time too. I even got Lonny a piece birthday cake. It was him and Josh Rhodes' birthday. It was Sunday was Josh's and Lonnie's was Wednesday. So I went ahead and got some birthday cake. I got one more piece left, so I'm gonna eat that. And it's better than some of the rice that I ordered. So
oh my gosh.
Confusion on that waitress.
We went to a Mexican restaurant on Saturday. Our race is on Sunday, but we set up on Saturday, and some of the guys come out early and set up and make sure their trucks are working and everything. And somehow or another, Cheech ordered 3 plates of rice plus his main dish. I'm talking.
It was a confusion.
Massive.
Yeah, it was a confusion, big time confusion for me at least, because I swear I told the lady I wanted no beans on my like Polo Zappa. I wanted extra rice. So that's one, and then I wanted another order of extra rice. So I had one plate and that. I guess she got confused. She got confused about it, and she gave me not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 plates. And one of our good buddies, Isaac, I'm name dropping him, was so determined that he was going to go to the average people around the restaurant to see if they wanted their leftovers. But she got confused about the rice situation. She gave me 4 plates of rice. I donated 1 plate to Isaac. And then I even threatened Josh saying, if you keep on nagging on me about this, I'm going to tell the lady about your birthday. And I did, but she did not care. So, but the cool thing is that she didn't charge Isaac. Isaac thought I was going to, they all probably thought that I was being a jerk and run up Isaac's bill, because I was like, just keep on adding rice. And, it's pretty good, because Brad, I could change your name to Humpty Dumpty there, Mr. Falling off a wall there, bud. Let's see here.
I already just changed my name.
You're not Eminem.
But also, Fred, I was watching. There was a Nitro RC race over the weekend that I was watching that you guys sponsored. Were you at that, and how did that go for you guys?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't at that event. That one we'll have to get Jason to give the lowdown on everything that happened there. But the J Concepts team doing really good. Just Ryan Mayfield, I think he kind of did the work and got the hardware. So, congratulations to him. I know a lot of other guys participated, but that's more Jason's niche. He goes and attends all that stuff. But yeah, real good weekend for the J Concepts team.
I saw definitely J Concepts banners all around that track.
Oh yeah, well represented there.
Yeah,
I know Lonny had a couple good.
It was a good time, though. I mean,
you guys had a good time at the RC monster truck races, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we actually had the honor of having Fred and Jason at last month's event. They came up and actually brought trophies for everybody and some prizes and door prizes and gave away a regulator chassis and some motors and a bunch of T-shirts. And so anytime we can get J-Con to come up and help promote the event, that's an awesome day.
Oh yeah, and it's also the area that we race at's pretty cool for what we do too. There, Lonny. Also,
yeah, we like the fact that there's no poles or anything in the way, so you don't have to worry about crashing your truck into a pole when you're trying to gun it for the win.
Well, make sure there's no table.
Right.
Make sure there's no tables when Chris Kalin comes to a race. Oh, I always got to bring that up. CK, I love you, bro, but I always got to bring that up, dude.
We're hoping that Fast Freddy makes it up for the next race and actually races this time.
Yeah, I was actually going to try and make it this time. It just wasn't in the stars this month, but everybody's here, there, and everywhere, so somebody's got to stay at the shop.
Yeah.
Man, we got some people here. Got Josh saying that he has trophies from the events hanging proudly on his hobby wall, and Dan Wyatt says it's all about the hardware. And he says also Dan asks, Fred seems to be in the dark. No, Fred's in the light. Just his phone's about the same age as Moses, so he has to fold or. We have audio Fred, but visual Fred, that's a negative. Right, Fred?
Yeah.
He gets, yeah. But we'll start off here on one of our first questions and topics for you, Lonnies. We heard through Jason's side of being in the monster truck world. Obviously, he told the story about how you and him helped out with Rob Fuchs in the First Blood team. How did you get the chance to drive behind the wheel of one of the First Blood trucks? The First Blood truck?
We actually, in our entire lives, have only paid to go see one monster truck show, and it was the show that we met Rob at. I've always been a Ford guy. I always will be. Red's my favorite color, and we showed up at this race, and there's a red Ford, and I'm like, all right, that's my guy to win, right? That's the guy I'm going to cheer on. And he actually did end up winning the first night, but he busted a knuckle off. And back in those days, after the show, everybody was allowed to go down in the pits and talk to the drivers and hang around the trucks and all that. And for whatever reason, I'm usually a pretty shy guy, especially back then, and somehow I got the courage to ask him, hey, do you need help putting this thing back together? We've never worked on monster truck. I'm sure we can give you a hand, because he was there by himself. And he said, yeah, you guys show back up tomorrow. I'll get you in, get you some shirts, and I'd appreciate the help. So we did. And then from there, we just kept in contact. Anytime he was close enough that we could go, help him crew with the truck or whatever, we did. Got to the point where we got to be really good friends, and I actually spent a couple of my vacations up at his house. And we had talked about me maybe going on the road with him and helping crew. But at the time he was a little bit leery about, he didn't want me to move all the way to Illinois and quit my job or whatever, and because he was afraid, things are good now, but what happens if I can't afford to have you? He really didn't want me to take that risk, and so I appreciated that. But we kept talking about it, discussing it, and we even threw out maybe the idea of maybe campaigning 2 trucks and this and that, and it was just a dream for me. And then I got a phone call one day, completely out of the blue, and he said, "Look, I've booked the New York mini series," which, back at that time, I think it was SRO that was doing it. And it was, I think, a 6-week or something, where they did some shows in New York and New Jersey and Delaware and a whole bunch of stuff up on the, East Coast. And he said, my wife is pregnant and she's going to have she's scheduled to have the baby while that is all going on. And I just can't go do it. Would you be interested in driving the truck? And, I was like, yeah, am I going to get to practice? Am I, you're going to come to any of them with me or what? And he's like, well, I'll be able to go to the first couple. We should have some time to make some practice, do some practicing here before we go. And it'll be good. You'll be fine. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm in. And so I went up and as it turned out, the day we were going to go to the practice track, we got out there and he made a couple of passes and I was getting in the truck and getting ready to buckle up, and it just started downpouring rain. So I didn't get to make any passes. So he did go with me to the first show, which was West Lebanon, New York. And like I told David on last week's podcast, my first race was against David in the Equalizer, and it was his first time back in Equalizer. So, of course, he beat me, but I was pretty happy that I qualified like low middle of the pack, so I wasn't the slowest guy. I definitely wasn't the fastest guy, but I wasn't the slowest guy. And, I just remember Rob goes, okay, get in there, and I'm like, what do I do? And he said, just as soon as the light goes green, he said, put it to the floor. As soon as your gas pedal hits the floor, pull it in second. As soon as you go over the first set of cars, pull it in third, and just stand on it, hold it till you get to the finish line. And so that's what I did. And after that, we went back home to his shop, and he was supposed to go with me to the next event. And the day we were supposed to leave, time kept going, and I kept thinking, man, we're really late. We really need to get going. I didn't really know what was going on, why we're dragging out. And he was trying to think of a way to tell me all day long. He's like, look, man, you're going to have to go by yourself. I can't. I don't remember exactly why he couldn't, but he said, I can't make it this time. And he said, I've already called Fred Schaefer and Ray Perkowski, and you just go and hang out with those guys and pit with those guys, and they'll help you do anything you need to do. And they'll help you with, any problems, or if you have any questions or whatever, just hang out with those guys and they'll help you out. Now, back up. I had never driven a semi before. So he taught me how to drive a semi to the first event and back. And so now I'm on my own, right? So thank goodness it wasn't actually, he had an RV camper on the back. So it was actually registered as an RV. So I didn't have to worry about scales or any of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's the guy that got us into this whole mess. And I can't thank him enough for it, or, without him giving us the opportunity that he did, I don't think we probably would have ever gotten into it.
So, with that first event, going
one
in.
thing I wanted to know.
Sorry, Cheech.
Oh, go ahead, Brad. I thought you were focusing too much on your background stuff, so didn't know if you were ready for a question or not.
No, I was listening the whole time. I was just having weird issues with
Oh,
my
he's
green
ready.
screen.
All right, go. Oh, okay.
You know, going into that first event, you know, with no practice, were you nervous at all, or did you kind of have an idea, like, hey, this is what's gonna go down?
No, my God, I was a nervous wreck. I had never raced anything in my life, and I actually, where I went to school and grew up, a little town called Hillsboro, Missouri, and they had these tractor pulls every year at the state fair or the county fair. And I remember I was on a date with a gal, and we went, and Bigfoot was there. And I'm not sure what truck it was. I'm almost thinking it might have been Bigfoot 3, maybe 4. I just remember it was an older Leaf truck, and they did a car crash. And I remember looking at her and going, "Man, that dude's nuts. You would never catch me doing something like that."
Uh-huh. And guess what happened, Lonnie? Oh, you there? Yeah.
It come full circle. Jason and I actually did with our Wild Thing truck, and Jason was driving Pablo's Just Showing Off truck. We did that show several years later, and then the following year after that, I had gone to work for Bigfoot, so I did that show with in Bigfoot number 8, and Joe Bowen was there with Snakebite 4. So I got to do that show that I said I would never do, later on in life. So
that's crazy. So, you and your brother go and you watch Jason's. He talks about how you guys got the Missouri Wild Thing. So when you guys had the Missouri Wild Thing, I was just curious because you brothers, like my boss Tim and Mark, stuck together. I know you guys were close, but there was a few times, or there was one time where he kind of did his own thing, and then you did your own thing, in pretty much, driving, Bigfoot, and he was driving barefoot. Do you used to remember the talk of like, hey, he was like, hey, I'm gonna go help with someone else, or and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna help another person, or kind of, I just wanted to be a fly on the wall to hear what you guys were doing, because I thought it was pretty awesome how, you guys were lucky enough to drive so many legendary trucks.
Right. Well, when the New York thing was over with Rob, I did that by myself, and when I came home, I told Jason, I'm like, man, we got to figure out a way to do this. It's just I've found my calling, and we got to figure out a way. And I put my application in at Bigfoot. I'd never heard anything back from those guys. We were talking with Ray Perkowski because he lives in St. Louis as well. And we, at the time, we were living down by Jefferson City, Missouri, so we weren't too far apart. And, we talked about doing a few different things, maybe trying to put a truck together, whatever. And then Ray turned us on to this guy, Warren Farnes, who had a truck and was needing a driver. The truck started out as his son's truck, Trevor Farnes, and it started life as Warthog. And I actually remember being at a show in Oklahoma City, I believe, with Rob, and that truck was there. For whatever reason, Trevor lost interest in it, and Warren renamed the truck Wild Thing and changed the paint job up on it a little bit. And so he had another guy, Jim Booker, was doing some part-time driving for him. But anyway, we got a hold of him. He said, yeah, come on out and we'll see. We'll throw you in the truck and see what you can do. See if you like it, whatever. So we ran a few events with him, and he just really wasn't set up. We had a car, literally a car hauler, open car hauler that we hauled the monster truck on. He would rent a U-Haul van, like a box van, and we would load all the tires and the fuel and the parts and everything in that, go to the event, come home, unload everything. And, so, I mean, it really wasn't set up to do a lot of events. We were blowing tires on the trailer constantly. And after 3 or 4 events, I was like, look, what if we took the truck over We made you payments. We'll give you a down payment or whatever, but we made payments because we just don't have enough to buy it out or whatever. So we ended up, that's how we got I had restored a 68 Mustang Coupe, and I gave that to him as a down payment because his daughter wanted it. And that's what we did. We took the truck and started doing our own thing with it. And then in the process, we ended up getting some shows with Pablo Huffaker, some Neil Darnell shows. And Pablo, this is when Pablo got the Gravedigger deal. Because Neil wanted a Gravedigger truck and Dennis's were all booked. So they came up with the idea of putting a body on Pablo's truck. And then so Pablo called Neil and he said, hey, if I had somebody to drive the show and off truck, would you take that truck too? And Neil said, well, can this kid drive? And he's like, yeah, he'd driven a lot, which he'd never driven before. So that's how Jason got into driving the show and off truck. And what we did at that point was we made a deal with Pablo. We said, look, don't pay us. Take that money and we want you to, we'll come down and work with you, but you buy the tubing and build the chassis. We want a new truck. And so our goal at that point was we would take the housings and everything out of Wild Thing and put into the new truck and get that one up and going, and then slowly put Wild Thing back together so we would have two trucks. Because we figured, with two trucks, we could make more money, like you do. And so that was kind of our game plan. And at the time, Jason and I were talking, I said, at that point, Bigfoot was the only one running the shocks that everybody runs now, the gas charged shocks with no coil springs. And I said, obviously Bigfoot works the best. At that time, they were getting ready to come out with those shocks through Trailmaster. Because Trailmaster was huge in monster trucks when they were all leaf springs. But when everybody started going to the Custers and the gas shocks, they kind of fell out. So Bigfoot and Trailmaster put together a deal where they were going to sell those shocks to other monster truck teams, and they were going to be Trailmaster branded. So we had gone to GTS Fiberglass to pick up the new body for the truck so Pablo could start on the chassis. And I said, we're this close. Let's run over to Bigfoot and find out when they're going to have those shocks available, because if we're going to build a new truck, that's what I want. So that's what we did. We ran over to Bigfoot, had a conversation with Jim Kramer, and told him what was going on. And we talked about the shocks and this and that. And at one point, he just stopped us and looked at us and said, why are you building a new truck? And we said, well, we need to keep up with the times. We need to be more competitive. And that we need to keep progressing. And he looked at us and said, well, what if I just hired you? And we kind of stopped and said, you mean both of us? And he said, well, yeah. Wow. Let me think about that, and we'll get back with you. And so, that's kind of how that whole deal happened. And, for me, it was like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders, because I didn't have to worry if I rolled the truck over or if I blew the engine up or if I broke a tranny or a rear end or what have you. I knew if I was working for Bigfoot, they had the sources. It wasn't going to be a big deal. They had the sources to put the truck back together, and you're back out on the road. So coming from that standpoint, for me, it was like going from being a Saturday night local dirt track racer to stepping into NASCAR and getting a full ride. And that's kind of how we looked at it. So we did that, and, we both went, and it worked well for a while. If anybody here knows Jason personally, he's a very atypical personality, right? So he has a lot of ideas, and he would express ideas, and being, Bigfoot's Bigfoot, some of the folks in the shop and some of the drivers didn't want to take his ideas, or, we've been doing this forever. We know how to build trucks, and you need to shut up and go away. And that's not who Jason is. So he made the decision to move on. Actually got hired by Scott Stevens. And so again, I hated him not still being there because when I got into number 4, he was my crew guy. So it was kind of like we're back together, but we've got good equipment now and we don't have to worry about what, if something breaks. But on the other hand, I didn't have to take care of my little brother anymore. And he was going to get to drive. And we didn't know how long it was going to be before he would get a ride in Bigfoot. So I was proud of him for getting a job. And he actually went to a couple of races. And, at this time, Dan Runty got 14. So 14 was new. And there were a couple of races that Jason was driving King Crunch, and he almost beat Dan. And in fact, Bob Chandler came back to me because he was at the events with Dan. And he came back and he's like, man, your little brother just about kicked Dan's ass. He's like, I was very impressed. So that was cool. And then, so Jason's in Texas and I'm still in St. Louis. And I think he was probably with Scott for about a year. And he did a lot of displays. Scott was kind of fizzling out, as how much he was running the truck and this and that and the other. And Jason was a little bit disappointed that he wasn't getting to drive more, but still enjoyed the job. And he was, able to hang out with Pablo and Tina and Scott and Colt and all those guys. And, but I don't remember how, but somehow I learned that Fred needed a driver, Fred Schaefer. And so I told Jason, hey, call Fred. And, here's his number and everything. And so he got a hold of Fred, and Fred had him come out and he let him try out in his backyard because Fred had a little track out back. And so that's how he got the gig with Fred. And that lasted, I'm not sure how many years he was there. And ironically, Jason and I only ever raced against each other back in those days. We did a deal show in Virginia,
Fishersville.
Fishersville. He won one night and I won the other night. It was him, and that's the only 2 times we ever raced, and until we did the Clear Channel stuff later, after we came out of retirement. So Jason actually did some. He did some stuff for Beckley as a show or like a track official or event director. He did some stuff like that while I was working at Bigfoot, and I don't really. I guess I don't know exactly how he got in. He did a little bit of stuff with Clear Channel before I did. No, I know it was Mike Wales. Mike Wales called us, and they were needing help. They wanted us to crew for Bobby Z when Bobby Z was doing the Wall of Death or something, where he was crashing the truck, through a stack of cars. And then weekends that they weren't doing that, they put I think it was Vet King body maybe on it, and George Belhan they would throw him in the truck because he was just coming off of being a quad racer. So partway through that season, they needed another driver, and they had Jason come out. He drove Rescue 1 for a few events, and then first quarter was over, and then we went back. By this time we had the Mustang shop, and so we went back into that. Well, the next year they offered us both trucks. Put Jason in Gravedigger, put me in High Roller, and we actually crewed the trucks out of our Mustang shop. So we would, come back, be able to spend a couple of days working at the Mustang shop and crewing the trucks, and then we went out. And
I was about to say that was common back then, because I remember Tony had trucks at his shop, Pablo had his, Randy Brown, Gary Porter. A lot of the guys back then in the early to mid 2000s, the late 2000s, A lot of the guys that were company drivers. Mike really unionized, rest in peace, Mike. Really used the guys that had a monster truck background and used their place to house some of the trucks. So just off topic. Sorry, Lonnie. The fans listening, that back then it was common for guys that knew what they were doing to house some bitty trucks at their place.
Right. Well, and it was they kind of gave you the option. If you wanted to be a fly-in driver, you got paid X amount. If you had 2 trucks, you got paid, X amount. If you were using your shop to crew the trucks out of, you got paid more. And if you hired crew guys, they would pay you for that as well. And with us having the Mustang shop, we needed to be there as much as we could too, as well as driving the trucks. But we had a good time doing that. I wasn't as pleased with the performance of the trucks, or like my first experience in one of their trucks. And at the time, High Roller was only a year old. It was the newest truck in the fleet. Ron Nelson drove it the year prior. It had only been rolled one time. But I remember the very first time we put the tires on was just before our first show. We were doing a display. And, when I started to move the truck and hit the rear steering, I was like, man, the rear steering's not working. And I looked back and I'm like, oh my God, it's working. It's just that slow. I was used to the Bigfoot trucks. Really, we had some pretty quick steering. And to save money, we're only putting 1 rear steer pump on instead of 2. That really took me. I never really did get the hang of how slow the rear steering was. I always felt like I was waiting on it. But that season, Jason in a digger truck and me in that truck, the whole season long, neither one of us rolled. The only damage I had was I had a battery go bad. I had to replace a battery in the truck. But we were still, most of the times I would win the racing and Jason would win the freestyle. The only thing we had really go wrong with Digger was the very first show that Jason did in Digger was in New York, and it was concrete with no ramps. And he got to the finals, and Mike Wales was at the show with us, and he radioed down. He said, do a couple of burnouts, get the tires really hot, and then just take off in second gear as hard as it'll go. Well, when he did, the truck went up and actually landed past vertical like this, past the cars, directly onto the concrete, and wadded the back of the frame up really bad. We were able to patch it up enough to get through, because that was the first night. We were able to patch it up enough to get through the rest of the weekend, and then directly after that show headed straight to Dan Patrick's shop, and he back half the truck. Mike Wales apologized repeatedly, saying, hey, that was my fault. You did exactly what I told you. I just didn't think it was going to hook that hard. By the way, Jason did win the race upside down and, with the back tires first. Other than that, we had a small electrical issue with Gravedigger when we were out, and that was it. And, we were thinking, hey, we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. We're keeping the trucks in one piece. We're still winning. And when we actually had to take our trucks to the World Finals, my truck was going to be a backup truck for Tony Farrell, and Jason's was obviously going to be a backup for Dennis. And we got there. We actually got a ration of crap from some of the drivers, some of the teams, because we didn't tear enough stuff up, and they were going to lose budget. At that point, I knew this isn't for me. If I can't put on a good show without tearing up my equipment, I don't need to be here. Jason went on to, he stayed with him, I think, at least one more year, maybe 2. He debuted Batman the following year. And then, or maybe I know he drove Bulldozer, and then he got into Batman. So I'm not sure when, but I know he debuted Batman. He was the first Batman. But I actually got a call from Bigfoot, like in October or November of that year. And Bob Trent called me and said, hey, I heard you weren't really interested in going back to work for Clear Channel or whatever they were called back then. And I said, no, I'm the trucks didn't handle that well to me. They were down on power. We got in trouble because we didn't tear enough stuff up, or at least that's the way it felt. And he said, well, what would you think about coming back and running for us first quarter? And he said, I got a couple of shows before that as well. And I said, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. And he's like, well, here's the thing. He said, I know you have your business, so you need to keep that going. He said, if you just come when we're ready to roll out, you come, hop in the semi. You don't even have to drive the semi. Just come when we're ready to roll out, and then when you do the show, come back, get out of the semi, and go back to your shop. We'll take care of everything. All you have to do is come in and drive the truck. And I was like, I can't pass that up. That's awesome. So that was really fun. I mean, that was some of the best times that I had. That was really cool. So I appreciated that.
So let's talk about the Clear Channel, because there's some history that you have talked about, which is pretty cool. And one person asked, Levi was talking about, we had a conversation about the AirQuest Freedom truck that was ran for like maybe a few for one summer. And also tell us the story about pretty much the beginnings of the Advanced Auto Parts grinder truck.
You're kind of breaking up on that first truck. I didn't hear what name that truck was you were saying, but
the AmeriQuest, that insurance company truck, the AmeriQuest Freedom.
Oh, I didn't have anything to do with that. What we did was we went to the week before the World Finals. They were courting Advanced Auto Parts to try to get them to come on as a major sponsor. So we actually did an 05 Ford body. We painted it at the shop, mounted it on the truck and all that stuff, and took it to a place that did a wrap on it. And we went to Orlando, Florida, and had it there. It was basically like almost like a mini SEMA, but it was just for Advanced Auto Parts customers and suppliers. So we had the truck down there for that, and then as soon as we were done with that, we loaded up and hightailed it out to Vegas. And when we got out there, they actually had some of the Advanced Auto Parts bigwigs there, and they had a little course set up, and they actually put them in that truck and let them drive around. They got to run over cars and stuff. So we, I have photographs of that truck. And they didn't use that design. I think they just came on like as a sponsor at first, and then later on they came out with the Advanced Auto Parts grinder truck.
So since we have Fred here, let's talk about a little bit about your guys' project with Bigfoot 4. Brad's back on. How did the communication between you and Fred got together on this project?
Gene Patterson. That's who started it all. That's who wrote me into this deal.
For better or worse.
We were actually out at SEMA, and we had our semi out there. And Gene called me and said, hey, are you guys coming back through Arizona when you come home? And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, there's this original GTS unmolested fiberglass cab that if you could pick that up and then drop it off in Oklahoma, you'd be doing me a great big, favor. And I'm like, what's going on? And so he kind of told me the story about, Jason, because at that time, Fred's boss, Jason Rona, owned the truck. And so we agreed to do it. We picked up the cab, dropped it off in Oklahoma. And then, Fred lived in Oklahoma at that time. And so he went over and I guess grabbed the cab from where we dropped it off, and we just started communicating from there. And he called me because Jason needed to move the truck out of the storage unit that he had it in, and Fred needed help getting it running, and the transmission was messing up on it. And so I took vacation and went down there for a week and hung out at JCon and got the tour and saw how they made all their parts and bodies and stuff that they make in house and their warehouse, which place is awesome. It's a really cool operation. So anyway, we went over, got the truck running, moved it over to Jason's parents' house, and then pulled the transmission out. And then on my way home, I swung by John Peterson. He used to be the transmission tech and then later became transmission, engine, and shocks. He did all that stuff for Bigfoot. So he went through the transmission for us. And then after Fred bought the truck, Gene Patterson and I got a gooseneck trailer and our dually, and we went down, put the transmission back in the truck, loaded it up, and brought it to our shop because at that point we'd agreed to help Fred with the restoration.
So I've been gone for a little bit. My computer all of a sudden randomly died on me, so I apologize about that. So once you guys got it to Missouri to your shop, what was the game plan from then? Because ever since then, there's been lots of work done, and now everybody knows that Bigfoot's restoring number 8. So we have two, I think, of the most important Bigfoot trucks being restored almost side by side.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, and all the Bigfoot trucks are cool in their own right, but I think when it comes to the purists, there's number 1, number 4, and number 8, right? I mean, that's the history, that's the legacy that Bigfoot was built on, in my opinion. But we basically blew the truck completely apart. At this point, the only thing left to take out of it are the rear ends. But in the 90s, when Bigfoot went to the new F-150 bodies, the cab, they had the cab forward design, and the trucks were way more aerodynamic. So what happened was they would modify the top of the cage to fit that new body. So they pulled the A-pillars in and laid them back more. So that was the first thing. Fred discussed what era he wanted to take the truck back to. We talked about, there's really the only thing left of the original number 4 is 3/4 of the frame rails. Because when Piant crashed it, they sectioned the front part of the frame rails. All the old suspension points are gone. They came up with a hybrid suspension. The whole cage got put on it. So taking it all the way back to the bullnose with a steel body is just not practical. I mean, if you want that, you basically need to build a clone, because Bigfoot 4 in current status is nowhere, 1985. It's just not. So we basically decided we would go back basically right after the crash, which would be the 88 body. And so unfortunately, GTS Fiberglass got rid of all those old molds, and nobody had those anymore. So Fred is pretty good friends with the guys down at Star Creations. I'll let him tell that part of the story. But so we knew that we had to change the cage, get that put back to the way it was. The engine had not been out of the truck since it left Bigfoot. And we know it went to some folks in Owensville, Missouri that ran it for a little while. They had removed the supercharger at Bigfoot when it started doing nothing but Firestone displays. So we knew we wanted to go back with a supercharger. But because we had no idea what cam was in it, what has happened to the engine since it left Bigfoot, we figured we really probably ought to go through that, refresh it. So it's at Ed Dixon's, who is the man that built all, he's maintained and built engines for Bigfoot for years and years and years. So it's in very capable hands there. He probably was the last guy to build it before it got sold. And we have been, between waiting on fiberglass pieces and, because these guys basically came up, scanned some parts. They had the cab that we initially brought back, so they were able to scan that and pull molds. But they pulled some molds or some scans off of some original sheet metal. They pulled a front end mold off of the Bigfoot half cab, but the wheel arches weren't correct for this version. Those were correct when it only had 6 inches of travel instead of 15 inches of travel. So we've gone back and forth with the hood a couple of times, trying to just tweak it in so it's just like it was back in the 80s, the way that they ran the truck. But we're basically trying to get the fiberglass mounted. Then we'll take the truck to sandblast, get it all blasted, and repaint everything, start reassembling, and then get some fiberglass painted up, and hopefully be able to debut it here before too much longer.
It's pretty cool to hear about this stuff and the process. Well, we were at the shop for the weekend, and it was cool just seeing your guys' history, basically. Not just the monster truck side of it, but also the Mustangs and all the Ford products. It was pretty cool to see how you guys went on and do the ride and drive stuff too. We're gonna go off topic here. How did that come about? The ride and drive, and I think it's pretty cool how you guys have this Mustang business, and it's growing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've been honestly, we were doing Mustangs before we started monster trucks, and so in the late 80s and early 90s, I was trying to convince my father that we could probably make a business out of doing Mustangs, restoring them, and back then, they were way cheaper than they are now. And they weren't as rusty. They weren't as crashed up. They're, 30 years older now than they were back then. And, my dad grew up very poor. He was one of 9 children. And, so he was never one to, you get a job, you work 9 to 5, you save money, you don't take a chance. We even had a big blow up when I decided that I wanted to go drive Rob's truck. Basically I said, look, because he kept saying, how do you know you're going to be able to do that? I said, I have no idea if I can do it, but if I don't try, I'll always wonder. Which turned into a pretty long career in that. So we were doing Mustangs before monster trucks, and when everything changed in the industry, and I absolutely loved my years at Bigfoot, even when I came off the road, and I'd gotten married, so I thought the right thing to do is stay at home and work on my family. So I took over the body shop for the last few years that I was at Bigfoot. But even then, I loved working there. But between the industry changing and the writing on the wall was just, because it's a family business, which I completely appreciate, there's really nowhere to climb the ladder, and retire from here per se, was my thinking. And kind of Jason and I had gotten our own, Mustangs, and we were restoring those. And the Mustang shop that we were working or were getting our parts from, we started talking to him about possibly buying him out. And so I went to work for him because he was supposed to kind of show me the ins and the outs of the industry, this and that and the other. And well, it just turned out that I was just a body man for him. And so after, I think I worked for him for about 9 months, I decided he's not going to show me what I need to know. And so I just decided to go out on my own and open the shop. And later Jason joined me. And, we just, it started like that. It actually, the shop really started because Jason and I, he had a 69 428 Cobra Jet car, and I had a 70 351 Cleveland car. And we would go to local shows, and he would take first and I would take second, or I would take first and he would take second. And we started having people ask us if they would, if we work on their vehicles for them or whatever. And that's kind of how it all started. Several years later, we ended up hooking up with BF Goodrich. We had, I think, 7 or 8 cars at an event, and one of the reps from BF Goodrich came walking by and saw all these cars, and they're like, "Hey, what's the deal with all these cars?" And we said, "Well, some of them are ours, and some of them are customers of ours." And the guy said, "Well, I noticed they all have BF Goodrich radial TAs on them." We're like, "You're building a muscle car. That's the tires got to be on it. I mean, there's just no other choice." That led us into a fantastic relationship with BF Goodrich, and we've been with them. We're actually brand ambassadors for them, and we're the longest brand ambassadors that they've ever had. Fantastic company, great to work for. They started having us bring our cars and put in their displays. Well, when the economy really tanked, they lost a lot of budget. By this time, we had started stepping up, and we had a little bit bigger rig and a small awning. And so they started coming over and displaying under our rig. And through doing this, the industry and everything started changing, and a lot of people started getting to the point where, it's great to build these cars that look awesome, but I want to drive it. So we started doing events like Good Guys events where they had autocross. And so we started doing a little bit of that. And that's kind of where it all ended up. It started with that, and then we started doing some track days at road course and really started enjoying all that stuff. So as we move on, we ended up getting together with Ford Motor Company. Now, Ford Motor Company, we represent them, and we do data capture for them. We do data capture for BF Goodrich. We do data capture for Miller Electric. We had a 3-year deal with Recaro Seats that we did data capture for them. And so all these products we use on our vehicles, not to mention our own Gateway Performance suspension products. And so we started putting these autocrosses together where it's basically, it started as we were running our stuff to show people. Well, then, you can brag about your products all day long. The way to sell them is put the asses in the seats and show them what your cars are capable of. And so we started doing that. We started giving people rides, and then it blossomed into, we'll just take a whole day or 2 days, and that's all we'll do is just have people ride in our cars while we're on track, whatever. And so it just works out really well. Again, and then, in the last few years, Ford will bring cars. So not only are we driving our cars, but we're driving Ford's cars as well. And just everything ties together because Michelin is the parent company of BF Goodrich. And so if you buy a new Shelby or a Mustang at this point, you get Michelin tires on them. You can option Recaro seats. So all of these things, and we were actually representing the Ford Performance Racing School as well. We had one of their cars on our trailer. So everything was tied together, and it works really well together. But again, why we started doing the ride and drive was to help promote our products. Like I said, you can say all day long how great your stuff is. When you put somebody in a car and go out and show them what it's capable of doing, that's when you can. They see, hey, these guys aren't just blowing smoke; they're proving it.
So one thing that I wanted to bring up that some people may know, some people not know, is you were on a bit of a television show with Jeremy Clarkson back in the day. Jeremy Clarkson's Motor World, where he drove Bigfoot.
Yep.
What's the story behind that and meeting Jeremy Clarkson? Because, this was, I don't know, I think they were doing Top Gear at this time, but this is before it really, they weren't?
No.
Oh, so this is pre-Top Gear.
Yeah.
So how was the experience working with Jeremy Clarkson?
We were actually, we're in Michigan at an event, and the shop called and said, hey, this crew's going to come out. They're going to shoot a little segment. They're going to shoot some footage of you driving, and then go ahead and let him drive. He can run over something small or whatever. I had no idea who the guy was. I didn't know who. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until somebody sent me the clip maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, holy crap. So I mean, he was a nice guy at the time, and it was cold and rainy and wet, and I just remember he took. We talked about this is what you have to do. Take off once you get rolling, grab second. Just keep it in second, and there's some hay bales over here you can run over. But before you get going too fast, feel the brakes. Don't mess with the rear steering. This, that, and the other. And I remember he took off and he was just ringing it out in first gear, and it seemed like a half hour he was running it in first gear, and I'm just like shift. And then he finally grabbed second gear. And of course the stuff that he's saying in the video when he's inside the truck, I didn't know any of that. He absolutely loved the experience, and you can hear him. He's like, "This is my all-time favorite vehicle now. This is fantastic." And when he got out of the truck after running over his hay bales, of course he thought he was 10 foot in the air, and I'm like, "Yeah, you got like 6 inches in air under your tires." But no, he was a great guy. I'd like to run into him again sometime and see if he remembers that.
I will say the mullet that you had back then was on point.
It was awesome, wasn't it?
Dude, it looked like it was like permed and everything. It's glorious.
That was the big thing, big hair, big curls. It was great.
I'll see if I can grab a screen capture to put on the screen.
So, talking about television shows, you guys have done a few with the Mustang Gateway Classic Mustang. Talk about the chance that you guys had with Are You Faster Than Redneck? Are you faster than?
Yeah. We through BF Goodrich got to know the producer whose name's Bud Brutzman. He's the guy that created Rides and Overhauling. We got introduced to him through BF Goodrich, and we kept pestering him to do a show on us, and I remember we were at a year one event. They had a big car show, and Chip Foose was there and a bunch of other people, and so Bud was tired of dealing with us, and his Bud's brother was at this event. So he's like, "Paul, go hang out with these two idiots and find out, just keep them away from me. I'm tired of them bugging, and if you know Jason, he's like a chihuahua. He's not going to let go." So we hung out with his brother Paul all day. And at the end of the day, Paul tells us that he went back, had a conversation with Bud, and he's like, "So did you get rid of those guys?" He's like, "Dude, you really need to do something with those guys. Those guys are awesome." So we ended up getting invited to do an Overhauling show, which led to some other stuff. And so when it came time to do this Are You Faster Than a Redneck, we'd done quite a few things with Bud. And so he invited us to do it as well. And that's actually how we got into the race stuff. Because at the time, we didn't have a race car. But so because of that show, we built the 68 Coupe that really got us into road racing and a lot more autocross than we were doing previously, because, we were driving really, nice cars doing autocross. So you're not pushing them as hard as you want to, because you don't want to take a chance on damaging. A lot of times there were customers' cars we were driving, this and that and the other. But that really got us into, okay, so we need a dedicated track car. And we built the 68. I wish that we could put that show back together and do it now. And now that we have experience, we would be so much better than we were then. We were so green, knew nothing about road racing when we did that. Had an absolute ball, though. We actually went. We did a went down for 2 weeks and shot the pilot to try to sell it to the network, and had a lot of fun doing that. And then we went back home and nobody heard about it for a while. And then he called and said, "Hey, the network bought it. We got it." So we went down for a month and shot the whole season in 1 month. So we all, all of us redneck guys or guys that had, we'd been around each other a long time, typically do all the same shows and all that kind of stuff. So we basically parked our semis and everything, in a circle, and we would have bonfires at night. And we had a guy that was there cooking, he was grilling every night, and it was so much fun. And then it was a serious game show. I mean, they had lawyers there. We actually, they wanted to make sure if we got beat, we got beat, and they had to pay the money out, right? So it was a fantastic show. We enjoyed it. They kept us. We couldn't even talk to the import guys. They kept us on separate ends of the compound. We couldn't have any conversations with them. And they had the ass kicker was the last race that they had to race, and they had no idea who was going to be driving that car at the the last race, the finale thing. And so we had a couple of guest drivers. Kenny Wallace was one. Kenny Wallace is actually, his hometown is not too far from us here. It's in Benton, Missouri. So he was there practicing one day, and we got talking about being from Missouri, and asking, would you take our car out and tell us what to think of it? So he did, and come back in. He's like, man, I really like that thing. He said, it doesn't have the horsepower that other car that I'm driving, but man, this thing handles better than any NASCAR I've ever had. And Jason said, well, did you try this and try this? And he said, no. And he jumped right back in the car, took it out, and did some more laps in it. So that was really cool. And then, one of the guys who got me interested in cars to begin with, John Schneider, Bo Duke, shows up, and he's going to be one of the ass kickers. And we actually got the pleasure of sitting down and eating lunch with him one day. And what a genuine, real, down-to-earth, great guy. Just super. I can't say enough good about him. He's just a fantastic guy. Had a lot of fun hanging out with him. And then as it turned out, they put the show immediately following NASCAR races to get that racing audience. And we ended up getting invited to go down to promote the show at the Bristol race. So there's a handful of us rednecks that went down there, and they actually set up an autograph line for us. And we're like, you've got to be kidding. A couple of shows had aired by this time, and we start getting stopped by people like Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Greg Biffle and Mike
Waltrip.
Yes, Michael Waltrip. Start getting stopped by these guys. Hey, man, you guys are redneck guys. We love the show. Carl Edwards, and he's telling us, he said, everybody, all the NASCAR guys watch it, all the drivers watch it, because when we get back to our motorhomes after the race and we're changing clothes, the show's on. So we all sit and watch it. Greg Biffle stops us, and he's like, man, I really like the show. He says, the only thing I don't like about it is the fact that you had Kenny Wallace drive instead of me. They were all asking, what do I got to do? How do I get on the show? I mean, this is cool. And we're all, so we're signing autographs and stuff, and we're elbowing each other, and like, we're at a freaking NASCAR race signing autographs. I mean, Jason and I signed autographs with monster trucks, and that was awesome. Our fans are fantastic, but this is the big leagues, right? So that was pretty cool. The sad thing is Fox, in their ultimate wisdom, decided they needed another stick and ball channel. Like there's not enough of those channels on. So they canceled Speed, turned it into Fox Sports 2. That killed our show. And what really sucks is we were probably going to get a season 2 because it was Speed's highest rated episodic show ever on the network.
So one thing, it's still shown in Canada. Okay. So we have Speed Channel left, and now we have a channel called Fox Sports Racing. And every single time it's on, I try to watch it, and there's a certain commercial that always plays, and there's you and your brother. So
Nice.
I got the screen grab.
There you go.
Just look
Rock
at the
man.
mustache and the mullet. Like that is 90s to a T.
It's epic.
Like dude, you have to try to get that back and behind the wheel of number 4, head out the window. Like you got to try to do that again, dude.
By the way, I was standing in front of Bigfoot 10, which is my all-time favorite truck I ever drove.
That's such an iconic picture. I get a kick out of that. Like I remember the first time I saw that video. I'm like, wait, Jeremy Carson drove a monster truck? It's like, what?
Yeah, that was fun.
So another one that is pretty cool to talk about, and Jason just got the motorcycle off this guy, is how did you guys get connected with Sammy Hagar?
So this goes back to we've done an episode of Overhauling now. So Bud understands that we're not complete douchebags, and he says, I'll tell you what, because at this time he had picked up a show called Hot Rod TV. It had been on, I think, for a season before he got it, maybe 2 seasons before he got it, but he took over the production of it. It was on ESPN2 at the time. And he said, I tell you what, if you guys can come up with a celebrity, I'll do a show on you. So Sammy Hagar loves St. Louis. And you think, all right, I'm in St. Louis. Everybody that comes to St. Louis says how much they love them. They go to the next town and they tell them they love that town, right? But this really is Sammy Hagar's town. When nobody else would play Montrose and Sammy Hagar on the radio, KC95, which is the oldest continuously running rock station in the world, played Montrose and played Sammy Hagar, and has always, still to this day, still plays Sammy and anything that he's ever done. So he really does have a real soft spot in his heart for this town. We've been fans since early 80s. And he was talking about the possibility of building a Cabo Cantina in St. Louis. So Jason and I even before we got the green light from Bud, if you get a celebrity, we'll do a show. We had been talking about, man, it would be cool if we could build a car for Sam and he would put it in the Cabo Cantina here in St. Louis. That would really, help promote our business. And at that time, we were trying to, level up. We were trying to become, bigger on the scale of things. So Jason, again, when he puts his mind to something, he and I clash a lot, but man, when he puts his mind to something, he pretty much gets it done. He's an idea guy. He'll come up with the idea. A lot of times I have to do the actual labor and the, building things, but he's a great idea guy. And once he gets something in his head, he goes for it. So he starts trying to figure out how I can get a hold of Sammy Hagar. He tried several avenues and finally reached out to Cabo Wabo Tequila president. Somehow got a hold of him, got his number somehow. I don't even know how. All the other avenues had kind of not really went anywhere, but he finally got a hold of this guy and told him, hey, we have a drawing of a car that we would like to build for Sam. We also have a television show that we would build the car on and Sam would be a part of. Would he be interested in doing this? And this guy was super stoked about it. As soon as he got off the phone with Jason, he got a hold of Sam. Sam said, yeah, hell yeah, I'm in. So he was coming to town not too long after that. We actually went backstage before the show and met him and actually, ironically, Michael Anthony. Showed him the rendering, had a contract. He agreed to it, signed off on it, and we called Bud and said, we got Hagar. And he's like, okay, we'll do a show. So we got most of the product sponsored to build the car, but we did all the labor for nothing. Called in a lot of favors, nights and weekends, every friend that we had that could work on a car. And we put this car together. We actually finished ahead of schedule and was able to take it to a show before we even showed it to Sammy and got it shot for a couple of magazines. So we made like 3 covers and some pretty big articles. We ended up, getting the TV show done. We were actually the only, Bud told us that the network loved us. We were the only shop that actually got our car done on time and delivered our star. So the next year, well, let me get back to, so when we're doing this, year 1 had been building Bandit Trans Ams. And it kind of got to a point where a lot of people were building high-end cars and then they would build a chopper to go with them. So they're figuring, if a guy's going to buy the car, he'll buy the matching bike. So again, Jason went to this local bike company and talked to them, and they built the Sammy Hagar chopper. We also knew that not every, because what we were hoping to do was we were hoping that the car that we built for Sammy would actually be able to be a production car for us to build, but it was going to be, pretty pricey. So the other concept we came up with and talked with him about was, well, what if we set up a program with a local Ford dealer where we take a new car, which was the 05 to 09 body at that time, and we change the bumper cover and the hood and the wheels and different deck lid spoiler and a few things, and then logo it up. And then, you would actually buy it through the dealer. So all that customization would be part of the package. And so we put all this stuff together. We actually took both cars and the bike to SEMA. And then after that, we took both cars and the bike on tour with Sammy. And that actually led to us getting to know Michael Anthony, who's even more of a car guy than Hagar is. And he said, hey, I've got this 69 GT500 or GT500 convertible that's my wife's car. It's a pretty nice car, but we have some issues with it. What do you think about working on that? And so we were able to go back to Bud and said, hey, Michael Anthony wants us to work on a car. Can we do another show? And absolutely. So not only did we get that show that year, but Bud actually convinced Speed to move the TV show from ESPN2 to Speed. And so they took our Sammy Hagar episode and re-edited it. So we actually got 2 episodes of the Sammy Hagar build, plus a bunch of magazine coverage and this and that and the other. And it really exploded us, and really put us in the forefront of the Mustang industry. But then we ended up got the Michael Anthony build, and then later we got to build a Bullet Mustang for Chad McQueen, which is Steve McQueen's son. Got 2 different television shows made on that. We did a project with Daryl Gwynn and the Wood Brothers to build a car for them, and that was also on Hot Rod TV. And I've done a couple other episodes of Overhauling. So, we had a pretty good run there for a little while. It's been a minute since we've had anything going on, but hopefully we can get back to doing some TV stuff.
If anyone doesn't know who Michael Anthony is, that is the basis for Van Halen, Chickenfoot, and other projects. So if anyone is curious on who Michael Anthony is, he's a pretty cool bassist.
Yeah, he's also in a band with Hagar now called The Circle.
So one question that I have, being that you are a Mustang guy, this is for everybody here. What is your favorite era of Mustang? And for mine, and people might think mine is weird, but I like the notchback 5.0 Fox bodies. For some reason, I prefer the notchback over the fastback. If it's a fastback, 67 all day. But notchback 5.0 Fox body is probably one of the beautiful. Like, there's just something about a clean 5.0.
Yeah, and when there's a lot of them that I like. Probably my favorite classic is a 70 fastback. I really like 68s. I had several Fox body 5-liter cars. I'm not a big fan of the notchback, but I know there are tons of people that really are, and I know they're really huge in drag racing because they're lighter than the hatchbacks. I do not like the GT, like 87 Up GT. I don't like the ground effects. I don't like that big deck lid spoiler. I like the LXs from then on. I think those are really clean. I also, the new Ford has just stepped the game up to an unbelievable level with the new GT500, the outgoing GT350, even just the GT Mustang, the Performance Pack 2 cars are absolutely incredible. They are just so much fun to drive, especially when you get them out on a track. They're amazing.
I guess I'm supposed to answer this question too.
Yeah, it's for everybody.
I'm a Mopar guy, but anyway, it would be the Mike White Special Edition 5.0.
the purple car?
Yeah.
Now, I will say, if I wasn't a Ford guy, I would be a Mopar guy. One of my all-time favorite cars is a 69 Dodge Charger, which is actually not Daisy Duke, but I saw the advertisement as a kid for the show, and they had a 69 Charger, and that's what drew me into watching the show. But old Mopars that from the 60s and 70s were just bitching. They just had the coolest lines. So, yeah, if I wasn't a Ford guy, I would definitely be a Mopar guy, and I would not be ashamed to have a Challenger or a Charger in my garage. Like early cars.
Actually, my favorite type of Mustang is either between the 69 or 70. Actually, 69 Boss 429. I saw a few of them at your garage, Lonnie, and that's my cup of tea right there with the Boss 429.
Yeah. Honestly, my favorite car is what we do currently, is where we put all of our late model suspension and late model Coyote engines and 6-speed transmissions and air conditioning and Recaro seats and tilt wheel and big fat BF Goodrich tires on them. That's the best of both worlds. You get the classic
The
looks.
resto mods.
Yeah, pro touring cars. You get the classic looks of the vintage car with all the modern drivability and trackability of the late model stuff.
It's cool to think about that because you have that with the Fords, and then with like the Camaros, you could drop the LS motors, and obviously with the Mopar cars, you could drop the big Hellcat motor, or the third gen, the Elephant. So it's pretty cool how you can, with the big 3 American made vehicles, you can do that. And also the cool thing is today you can convert your Mustang to a Firebird if you want to, or even some people like to convert sometimes the Mustang. There was a little project I saw, like they call it the Mercury Cougar, but it's kind of like the Thunderbird. But still, I mean, there's a lot of resto mods where the sky's the limit with those things. You can do whatever you want to do. Like a lot of guys, like for instance, Brad likes the square body S10s. A lot of guys drop the 302 in there, or the 305 or whatever motor they want, and it's just pretty cool with the customizations that you can do.
Yeah.
And Fred, what about your favorite Mustang?
Favorite Mustang? Well,
the horse.
Yeah. Well, I've never been. I mean, since I've met Lonnie, I worked for Ford. I am a graduate tech from Ford, but my favorite has always been the Shelby Cobra. Mm-hmm. That's kind of always been my favorite. And they're not, aside from that, the Childress Mustangs, they're just unbelievable. I got to take a ride with Lonnie, and if you've never been on a ride with Lonnie, in one of them things. Unbelievable. They're just the handling, the power. Those guys do a great job.
Now, one Mustang that Lonnie brought up, which one I'd love to take a ride in, and it sounds amazing, is the GT350. That engine screams with the flat plane. I believe it has a flat plane crankshaft. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir. It's a
Yeah, those
5.2
things.
liter. Yep.
Those things are insane sounding.
Yeah, they are, and they'll rev to like 8,500 RPM all day long. Yeah, they're wicked. They were the bad boy on the block until last year when they outdid themselves with the GT500, which is basically the same engine as in the 350, but with a cross-plane crank and a supercharger. It's putting out close to 800 horsepower.
Hellcat who?
You're right.
Well, doesn't that? But the Hellcat is in the same ballpark anyway. So, I mean, sorry, there's a car called Demon. Brad, you forgot that thing's pushing almost 1,000. Probably making some turns. If you a GT500 you can race in the NHRA, Demon's banned from that.
But the thing is, if I ever was able to get a Fox body and drop any motor in it, I go LS all day. Like I there's no other.
All right, we're just gonna
shut him off. I'm done with him.
Turn his mic off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm sorry.
We're gonna turn him off.
Why would you drop an LS?
He's done. All right, folks.
Dropping a GT500 motor in it.
True. You got me there. But for me,
every one episode, Brad says something dumb, and this is it for this episode.
This just comes from my dream project is to do a early '90s S10 with a turbo LS. That's one of my dream projects.
That's fine. That's a Chevy.
The alphabet motor. That's the first time I've ever heard that. There was actually somebody on YouTube that put a Ford Barra motor from Australia in a GT350, which it actually surprisingly, it's basically like a 2JZ, but I guess for Australian a little bit better.
Right.
So I don't know, but I'm sorry I offended you with that. It's just drag racing.
Australians are crazy, man. Australians spend more money per capita on the cars than we do.
Like they'll shoehorn basically a top fuel alcohol motor or a monster truck motor into like a Mini Cooper and just do burnouts.
And most of their hot rods are 4-doors.
Yeah. It's bad. You know what? Crazy. Like, just watch burnout contests on Australia, guys, because you guys will be like, oh my God.
Oh, they're nuts.
They are nuts.
There's actually, before the whole pandemic crap came in, we have this Australian tour guide that comes through 3 times a year. He flies folks in from Australia into Chicago. They rent Mustangs, Camaros, Harleys, Indians, and they ride them on.
Oh, what happened?
Lonnie's going off. Anyway, Isaac said he put a VTEC in a 67.
Oh, God. VTEC just kicked in, yo. Oh, Lonnie's back.
Sorry, I got a phone call and it dropped.
Oh, no worries.
But anyway, so they ride from Chicago out to Las Vegas, and they stop at places along the way, and they've been stopping at our shop for like the past 5 years. And so they come in, we hear all kinds of stories and give them a tour of the shop, and just great folks down there. I'd love to go to Australia sometime.
I just enjoyed it when I visit there for a month. That the some of the fastest cars in Australia has a bed in the back of it, which just production, not like like the El Camino. I'm talking about like they just. Well, I mean, even though the Holman is a Chevrolet, but still, what they do. I mean, even you buy a pickup truck there, it already comes with a snorkel. That's still pretty cool. That Australia loves their cars. They love racing, It's just and the crazy thing is, if you ever go there, the only really big difference is the accent, and they drive on the other side of the road. Outside of that, it's the same thing as America.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they love their
Folks down
they
there.
love their fast cars.
Yeah, they do.
They love their drag racing. They love their V8 supercars. They love their dirt tracks. They love monster trucks. That doesn't it's not a really big difference.
Yeah.
I think David Freiberger from Roadkill said it best on the episode where they went there and drove that. What was it? Holden Commodore that had a Sonny Leonard was like 900 cubic inch engine motor in the car, like made like 1400 horsepower naturally aspirated. They're like, Australia they have no laws, no insurance. Like what? Like it's like I will like I actually like one year they streamed their big event at the beginning of the year, Summer Nats on YouTube.
Yep.
And I stayed up all night to watch it because I'm like, I do not want to miss tires getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah. They're crazy down there. Good people though.
Right on.
I touched on something when we were talking about number 4, and I would like Fred to talk about this a little bit. Hey, Fred, can you talk about Star Creations and what they're doing for us, please?
Yeah, no, I've just been enjoying this podcast. I'm learning so much about Lonnie, and he's restoring a monster truck, and wow, unbelievable. I didn't even know he had a Mustang shop. That's incredible. But yeah, anyway, back to Star Creations. No, those guys, super great guys. I can't say enough about them. When Jason had the truck, we were going over with Jason, what kind of body we wanted to do, and just so happened I was, trying to chase down the fiberglass. Lonnie says, GTS, the molds were destroyed, which was the case, and just still searching around. There's nowhere to track down that fiberglass. So as it started, with Gene Patterson coming on board, knowing about the project, getting that cab, it was all well and good. We found the cab, but how are we going to do the rest of the truck? So I just happened to be chatting with Ryan Anderson, because we've been doing some, RC projects with them over the years. Ryan says, you got to check out these guys down in Florida, the Star Creations. And I'm like, all right, cool. So it gives me the number and give them a shout, and they just couldn't believe it. They're like, wow, old Bigfoot 4 truck? Yeah. Wow, that's the one we seen as a kid. That'd be amazing. Yeah, we want in on this project. So right from there, it's been, going to Gene provided a bedside off a snake bite. Those guys flew up to Missouri to scan that over at Lonnie's shop. And then we went over and we did the cab, the old 4 cab that's out in front of that was in front of the Bigfoot shop at one point. But, scan that thing. And it's, gone from there. We got the tailgate, scanned it, and just so happened everything, all the pieces of the puzzle were fitting together. It just happened that we got to the hood to where some body lines weren't matching and things like that needed to be tweaked in the computer. But, those guys have really, stood up with us and made sure that thing is absolutely perfect now. So, hats off to them. Aaron and Jesse Starr, Eric Long, he works along with them as well. And, perfection, that's what they're all about. They do a lot of the Monster Jam bodies, and have you seen some of those things? And
they just debuted a new one there, Fred, for the Pagugos Jester. They came up with a truck called Recreation, which is a square body Chevy with a camper in the back of it. Just posted on Facebook, and that was created by Star.
Yeah, and they do the Kraken. That's a pretty wild ride that they did there. They did the Dragonzoid. It's unbelievable. Their talents in the fiberglass business is just second to none.
Yeah, it shows up there. I think it looks cool. They're working with Jason Becker with Master of Faster on that, so that thing is going to look sweet. And like they were doing a show for a while. I think it was like Toy Makers, I believe, with Star Creation.
With that guy quite a bit.
Yeah,
So they are doing a lot of cool things in the business, and it's cool to see because like for the longest time you had GTS Fiberglass and all these other companies, and then Star comes in and they're using 3D scanning and making things like in that like look at what they did with Kraken. Like it's insane what they're being able to do now with this 3D scanning and even like printing stuff, like printing the materials out. It's crazy.
Well, and they can design a body in the computer and just send that data straight to the cutter, and it literally cuts the thing out of foam, and they've got a plug for a mold. It's amazing.
Because I remember, I don't know who told me the story, but like somebody rented a vehicle for a weekend and made a mold off of that vehicle. I forget who told me that, but that's how some people used to do it back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when I worked at Bigfoot, when we did the 97 switchover, we actually got an early prototype truck from Ford and, cut the fenders and welded in sheet metal and then body worked all that stuff. And we had to, make everything mold ready and then send all those pieces out to George. And then he would pull a mold off of the plug. So we had weeks and weeks and weeks of work making these pieces, making the plugs so that George could pull a mold. Where these guys can, do it in a lot less time. And if they need to tweak something, they can go back in and just, adjust it in the computer and done.
Yeah, now they're at a point to where they can scan the truck itself, so they know where everything's going before they even make it, which is cool because they got the scan of the truck and then they can build the body around the truck, so everything's really nice and tight. You don't have a lot of fiberglass flopping around in the wind, and it's just amazing the technology. I know Jesse Starr, he's the one really working the computer down there. It's just amazing what he can do.
Well, and that's like even the metal shop guys.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Cheech. There was a little bit of lag there, Cheech. I apologize, dude.
Anyway, I was about to say, Fred, congratulations on the Expedition, 05 Expedition, and the new late 80s Ford body that you guys extended for the RC monster trucks.
Yeah, thanks. I'll forward that on to Jason if he's not listening. But yeah, it's we can't make these things fast enough now, guys. It's like, you guys throwing bodies at us right and left that you need done. It's just our mold makers, he's really happy.
It's too bad you can't get Star to design the plugs for those Lexan bodies in the computer. Scan a real truck, downsize it, and make a plug.
You never know. That may be something in the future that we look at.
Yeah. Getting back to this is a great crossover, RC and monster trucks. J Concepts has really, really, really stepped up the program over the past several years and really brought monster trucks back into the hobby. To me, a Clodbuster was really kind of the only name out there that was doing it, and I think that thing was pretty much on its last leg until being super fans, Fred and Jason decided to start doing some things and have really, I think, lit a fire under a lot of companies to come out with solid axle monster truck stuff, and just fantastic. And that's the problem. They bring us out something, we're like, that's really cool, but if you could do this, that would be even cooler. And then we get that and we're like, oh, that's awesome, but now you need to do this. And we're just all geeks because we're all fans of monster trucks from, especially from back in the day, and we want to make replicas of those. J-Con, Jason, and Fred have been the guys giving us what we want. Unfortunately, we're all still demanding more because we know they're the guys to do it.
So, sorry.
Yeah, there was one other thing that we didn't really touch. All the accolades that Lonnie has with Sammy Hagar and all these Mustang shows and all that stuff, but nothing is in comparison to WCW and the wrestle trucks. That's always for a great story, and I think that's one of his pinnacles things he's ever done in his life.
Do tell, Lonnie. Do tell.
So I have never been a huge wrestling fan. I'll just say that right out front. And when I got asked to be part of the WCW sumo monster truck wrestling thing, I did it because it was my job. I wasn't really happy about it. Turned out relatively okay. It was kind of cool, and it's cool now to say that I was a part of it. At the time, I wasn't a fan because we had been fighting an uphill battle so long in the monster truck industry to be legitimate racing, to be, not compared to wrestling, which we were a lot. And for us to get in bed with WCW, I wasn't a fan of, just for that reason. I was all about keeping the sport pure, keep working toward like the Penda stuff where it was real perch racing. You really had to qualify to make the field. And I didn't like the direction of going with the WCW thing. I know that Bigfoot made a lot of money doing it. And hats off to them for having the vision to do something like that out of the box. We spent months and months trying to figure out how to make that deal work. We were burning up transmissions. We were burning up converters. We were, hurting engines. When it all came down, there was so much more than met the eye to make all that happen. We ended up getting buffed down tires. We played with tire pressures a lot to try to figure out. We needed a little bit of traction, but not too much traction. Then we ended up with, I think they were like 55-gallon barrels that were mounted to the trucks that sprayed a mixture of water and coconut oil. There were actually sprayers over each tire that came out and sprayed that water and coconut oil on the tires to keep them slick enough that we wouldn't hurt the transmissions. We had TCI built us special converters that could hold up to that. And I just remember that was in October in Detroit. Who thought this was a good idea? So, they claimed that it was on top of Joe Louis Arena. It was actually on the parking lot that was next door to Joe Louis Arena. So the first problem was we had to get all the equipment up there because it was a spiral driveway thing, right? So we had to drive the tires up, or the trucks up on transport tires. And then we had the shop truck from Bigfoot, and we, loaded it up with as much stuff as we could, drive that up there, unload that, go back down, get another load. So it was an epic chore just to get everything up there, on the parking garage so that we could get the trucks set up. And we practiced that the day before. We practiced, and the way it was set up was it was supposed to be Hulk Hogan driving his truck and the Giant driving Dungeon of Doom. Well, in reality, they had a steering wheel in front of them that wasn't hooked to anything. Myself and Jim Kramer drove. Jim was in Dungeon of Doom, which was Bigfoot 8, and I was in Bigfoot 9, which was Hogan. And they had changed all the controls to the right side. So, we're driving like in Australia now. So I would do the steering by steering my rear, and Jim would make the control, either I would be pushing him or he would be pushing me by, when they hooked us together in the front end. If you look closely, Jim's truck has a ram that went from the hitch to the chassis of his truck. So he could load his truck or unload his truck, which would give, if he unloaded his truck, it would give me the advantage where I could push him. If he loaded his truck, it would take weight off of me and he could push me. So we knew where we were supposed to go. When he pushed me out, I think 2 times before I pushed him. You had to get all 4 tires out of the ring. So we had it set up where he would push me, just get 2 tires out, and then I would push back. I think he knocked me out twice, and there were charges there where we knew exactly where we were supposed to go out at. I mean, the whole thing was very well choreographed, and we'd rehearsed it, like I said, for months. So we're practicing this thing the day before, and we shredded the transfer case in number 8. And what didn't we bring with us? A transfer case. That was the only thing I think that we had not brought an extra one. So I don't remember who it was, but somebody got in the shop truck, which was a 1-ton dually with a flatbed on it, drove from Detroit to St. Louis, picked up a spare transfer case, drove all the way back. They went overnight to St. Louis, drove all the way back, and we managed to get get that swapped out in number 8 in just enough time that we did the show that night. And so, like I said, it's October in Detroit. We're right on the river. It's cold as hell, and it was rough. And then Hogan and the Giant show up. Paul's his name. Paul was super excited about the monster truck thing. He was just giddy about it. And I remember he would walk up to the truck and put his knee on the step and climb in the door. He was that friggin' tall. I mean, he was a monster, but super nice guy. And then I remember when we got in the truck, Hogan looks over at me. He's like, "No, I'm not going to get hurt in this thing, am I, brother?" And I'm like, "You'll be fine. We're not jumping any cars or anything. We're just going to push each other around. You'll be good." So they both did a great job of acting. And the other cool part was we were actually sitting in the limousine with those 2 guys and a couple of other people and Jim and myself. And we were they were talking about, how this whole thing was going to go down, because after Hogan wins, Paul's going to get mad. They're going to have a little scuffle outside of the trucks. And eventually Paul is supposed to fall off the building. And so I just remember Hogan saying, we're going to have to make it look like you tripped or slipped or something, because there's no way I could push you off the building, right? You're too much bigger than I am, so I wouldn't have the power to push you off. And it was just funny to me, because Paul's like, "Yeah, whatever you say, boss, whatever you say, however you want to play it." So they did it. They got up on the wall, and then, there was obviously some scaffolding down there with some mats and stuff, and he got pushed off. And then they immediately panned over to the river that was about 3 miles away and said, he fell into the river. And then obviously after the whole monster truck thing, we actually went down where they were wrestling, and an hour or so later, he comes walking in with, I think, seaweed on him, and his hair's still wet and stuff. And so it was just a crazy night. But yeah, I guess I have to say I'm proud of it in retrospect, but I wasn't excited about going down that avenue, comparing wrestling to monster truck racing.
And like with I remember watching that years later, and like what led up to that was I don't know which Bigfoot truck it was, but like Hulk Hogan was doing something, all of a sudden the Big Show or the Giant comes up in a truck and just crushes a bunch of motorcycles and a bunch of stuff. And I actually also just looked up the distance between St. Louis and Detroit. It's about 8.5 hours, 552 miles. So that dude who trekked there and back, I hope he got a raise that day.
But and that was the cool thing about Bigfoot. Even though there were some internal scuffles here and there, when we needed to, we all pulled together as a united team. And I mean, there really wasn't that much bad blood. Every now and then there would be, a little scuffle or whatever, but that happens in any family, right? But it was one of my favorite places I've ever worked with. I wouldn't trade any of it, for anything. Met so many great people, so many other, the drivers and fans and, the promoters and stuff. It was just fantastic.
Got a comment from Gene there. It says, "It's real, and don't you forget it, Lonnie. Shame on you." And then from Chris, "My childhood was a lie." You got to keep it kayfabe. Keep it kayfabe.
Right on, right on.
You know,
No, it's pretty cool. And then I know you.
It's funny that Gene posted because we were his wife and I were at one of the Monster Truck Hall of Fame ceremonies, and she and I were sitting there talking. And when Jason and I moved the shop down here to Sullivan, not too far from here is a really nice camp area where Gene goes camping a lot. And so in the summertime, if Gene's camping, he'll take one day and come up to the shop and hang out and this, that, and the other. And he's always telling us how unbelievably proud he is of us. And he just thinks it's great that, you know, we were able to move on from Bigfoot and monster trucks and be very successful. And he just constantly tells us how proud he is of us, and which means a lot to me. But anyway, I was talking to Susan at this Hall of Fame thing, and I'm like, you know, it's funny. I said, she and I worked together for several years, and he didn't give me the time of day at Bigfoot. He talks to me more now than he ever did when we were working together. I said, I remember when they told me that I was going to take over number 4, the only guy that I really knew, you know, because I didn't know any of those guys, right? I'd seen them on TV or what have you, or maybe at an event, but, you know, we really didn't run with Bigfoot hardly at all. I'd run with Kramer when I was driving Rob's truck, and I ran with him one time at a Beckley show, and I think I ran with Dan Runty one time at a Beckley show, but never Gene or Andy or any of those guys. And so I asked Gene, I'm like, hey, Gene, what can you tell me about number 4? What do I need to do? You know, are there any quirks or anything that I need to know about it? And he just looks at me, you know, the way Gene does, and kind of flutters his eyes, says, you be good to that truck will be good to you. And so I'm telling this story to Susan, and she's like, what a shithead. So apparently on the ride home, she scolded Gene about treating me bad. And he calls me the next Monday or whatever and apologizes to me for being a jerk when we worked together. And I got such a kick out of it. And I'm just like, dude, it's fine. And I consider him to be a very good friend now. And I'm glad he's part of the restoration of number 4. And I appreciate everything he does, and the fact that he's very supportive of us.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And also, John Pyatt helps you guys out, doesn't he?
He has been down a couple of times, yeah. And we, you know, make sure that we point out the areas that were replaced when he crashed it. But you know, going back to my days with Rob, you know, Rob and Pyatt were in the Camel series together. So, you know, Pyatt and Bigfoot 4 were the devil. They were the enemy. You know, so we were very anti-Bigfoot and anti-John Pyatt back then. So it was very cool to actually meet John, because he was gone by the time I went to Bigfoot. Very, very cool to get to meet him and tell some old stories. And he's a super great guy too.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, anything else there, Brad? We've been rocking it for almost 2 hours with Lonnie, and it's pretty cool stuff. Not gonna lie.
It's been a good episode, you know, getting to chat with Lonnie and you know, hear more stories, because I had to dip out a little bit early last week, and you know, just and bringing up the whole Jeremy Clarkson thing, that was cool for me. Just I remember it was like, holy crap, it's like we were talking and I'm like, wait a second, and I typed, and I had to double check the video while we were talking. I'm like, okay, yeah, he was on it.
yeah.
But
yeah, like
no,
I've never seen it before. Like it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Somebody sent me the video, and I'm like, man, I remember doing that, and I had no idea who Jeremy Clarkson was back. I couldn't even tell you what his name was back then. But yeah, it's like, hey, that's a dude from, I know that guy.
And I just also want to say it's awesome what you guys are doing with Bigfoot number 4, bringing it back to its former glory. And you know, I'm excited to see Bigfoot 4 and 8 together. That's going to be such a cool moment. You know, as you mentioned, number 1, number 4, and number 8 are kind of the big 3 of Bigfoot, and it'd be even cool to have number 1 just all like those 3 just sitting in a row for like a picture for a poster. I think people would go nuts over that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd also like to give a shout out to Bob and Ann Trent, and Bob Chandler and Marilyn Chandler. They are working with us instead of against us on number 4, and they're going to allow us to do some things that they have never allowed anybody to do before. So that's really cool. We're looking forward to working with them and helping keep their history alive.
And hopefully we see a slithery snake appear at some point too.
You never know. Gene could be just around the corner.
Gene, what are you talking about?
I mean,
Cobra and
it could be Eric
Gene
Meager.
Patterson are 2 different people.
Just like Dan Runty and Ricky Rattler are 2 different people. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, Annie Anaconda,
Chris Copperhead,
right?
Oh, there was one that was just atrocious though. I forget which one that was.
PD Python.
Yes, I hated that. I hated that.
I actually there for a little while. We actually got to the point where we were like, why can't we just be ourselves and tell them that we work for Colt? And they're like, well, I guess you could do that. So there was several shows that, I did it for, quite a while, just running as myself. And I worked for Colt Cobra, and I told him, hey, you and Rick wear the mask. I don't need to wear the mask. I'm just going to be me, and I'm just going to go out there and kick Bigfoot's butt.
Now, you did wear a mask at one point, right? Were you playing as Colt Cobra?
Yeah, I did for a while. Yeah. But
okay, I didn't know if you had your own alternate name, or when you did the racing, you were one of the Colts.
Back then, we all played Colt or Ricky. I know that there was. I went to Crown Point, Indiana, and apparently the year before, whoever played Colt really had troubles with it. I don't remember if they were having problems with the truck or what, but didn't leave a good impression. Let's put it that way. Got booed, I think, and so I was Ricky Rattler that weekend.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool on how long Bigfoot kept that truck separate from Bigfoot, even though later down the road exactly it was part of the fleet.
Yeah. So it was always interesting to you hate lying to people, but it was like, well, why are you hauling snakebite in your trailer? So the trailer that I had, it was just a white trailer, didn't say Bigfoot on it anywhere, but it said Ford Trucks with a big Ford logo on it. And I said, well, Ford sponsors both our teams, and so it's in our contract that we have to haul that truck because they're both Ford trucks. And so people bought that, but when it really got rough was when you did like Denver, Colorado or something. They're like, there is no Cobra Creek, Colorado. And you're like, well, if you don't know where it is, you're not much of a Colorado person, man. You have to come up with something. But I tell you, my biggest fear, I hate snakes. You better be faster than me because I will run over you to get away from one. And I don't care if it's a little bitty one, if it's non-poisonous, if it's dead. I don't care. I don't like them. So my biggest fear was that somebody was going to show up with a freaking snake when I'm, playing snake bite and want me to hold it or show it to me or whatever, and I would have knocked down the freaking crowd to get away.
You would have hopped in that.
Luckily, it never happened to me. But Dan Runty, actually, he was at a Penda race, I think, and he's got photos. They had like 5 pythons. He's holding one. There's one on the hood. There's one wrapped around a 4-link bar, and I'm just like, ah!
Nope. You would have gotten in that truck, fired it up so fast, people wouldn't have known what would happen.
I actually was in Detroit for the Woodward Dream Cruise doing a display at a Ford dealer with, I think it was 10. And I was inside the trailer getting ready to unload it. I was inside the truck. I hadn't fired it yet. And somebody walked up with a snake in their hand and looked in the trailer. And people are just standing around going, are you going to back out? And I'm like, not till that guy's gone with that friggin' snake. I am not out.
Man, that's crazy. Is there any information people can have about Gateway Classic Mustangs?
Absolutely. GatewayClassicMustang.com. Our sister company, GatewayPerformanceSuspension.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. So, go check out our social media. Check out our YouTube channels. We're starting to put more and more videos up. Actually, just loaded a new one today. So, yeah, please check us out. And
All right, cool deal. Any social media? I know you're not tech savvy. You have told me that before there, Lonnie.
yeah,
But
Twitter. Like I said, Twitter. I know we're on Twitter and Facebook.
there's a random Mustang. Awesome.
That
was
and there's it is again.
That's the Sammy Hagar Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he had sold. He had a '67 GT500, and had sold a couple of years prior to that, and at Barrett Jackson, and it was nicknamed the Red Rocker. It actually was written on the deck lid of the car. And when we filmed the TV show and gave him the car, it was pretty cool because he's like, "This is the new Red Rocker."
Nice.
Yeah.
So before I accidentally interrupted, any social media people can follow you guys on with Gateway Classic Mustang or yourself?
Yeah, it's Twitter. We're on Twitter and Facebook. I don't know what the pages are, but if you just look up Gateway Classic Mustang or Gateway Mustang, you'll find us there.
And Fred, what about you with J Concepts?
Yeah, just jconcepts.net or follow J Concepts on Facebook, and then or myself, Fred Reed, on Facebook. And I'll post some updates from now and then on the progress of number 4. But yeah, just want to say thank you so much to the Childress family. This whole project would not be possible at all without Lonnie and Jason, and just great people to work with, and just thank you guys so much.
Thank you, buddy. Proud of you. You've helped us so much with our RC stuff, and it's amazing how the world works. Somebody that we would have never been in contact with. We've made great friends. As far as I'm concerned, family, and I'm very excited to be part of the project.
Yeah, and if I could speak on behalf of Lonnie, we're just so anxious and happy to open the new chapter in Bigfoot 4's life. It's going to be amazing. I think the fans are really going to appreciate what everybody's doing here.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. And off topic, I had to go for a little bit because my landlord just informed me that he just shut off my water, which I didn't know. And now he turned it back on. I guess someone upstairs moved and flooded the bathroom before he left. So I didn't even know about it. So, yeah, I just got informed that my water was turned off, then back on, and the guy tried to cause some trouble upstairs, but he's gone now. So,
you didn't see it raining in the
information.
background over there, Cheech?
No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm ready to see someone just like fall off.
All of a sudden, it's like, hey, how's it going?
What the? Good night.
Any social media people can find you on, Cheech, as well?
Oh yeah, I got a crap load. Follow me on Facebook.
Sure, it was full.
Now we know who flooded the toilet.
Well, anyway, follow me, Dan Cheech Agosh on Facebook, Dan Agosh 10 and Snapchat if you want to, whatever. On Instagram, I am Dan Cheech Agosh. Also, I have an RC page, Agosh RC Racing. That's on Facebook and on Instagram. Also, follow me, Lonnie, and everyone else on the Childress RC page. They have our races and stuff like that we do every month in Sullivan. We have pictures.
Childress RC.
Say that again, Lonnie.
It's Childress RC Racing, and I believe we have a YouTube channel for that as well.
Yes, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And also in that on that too, Lonnie and Jason have built their own RC chassis So if anyone's interested in getting into the RC world and want a format, their chassis are pretty good for that. And they've been running for a while. I think, Lonnie, you said probably one of the longest running RC solid axle monster truck chassis out there.
Yeah, we started building those back in the 90s, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I run one. Who else? Isaac Ankrum. He's a freestyle champion, but he runs one of their chassis. John Arnold, who's our sponsor at JB Scale Graphics, also runs the Childress's chassis also, and a few others too. So it's also on their Facebook page if you're interested. And the chassis have been tested on the on Sugar King and other groups around the United States. So if you have a chance to take a look at that, feel free to take a look at that on Facebook and Instagram, and also on YouTube. So also one more thing too. I have a Twitter, but it's the same thing as Dan Agosh 10, but I don't really follow it. I only follow it for NASCAR news and NHRA news and NFL news and NHL. So that's my informative news program is Twitter. But that's pretty much it for social media. Brad's on Monster Truck Conductor on everything, so go find him.
I just
no,
popped
Brad,
that
tell
up.
him. No, yeah, just go ahead and tell him what social.
Yeah,
just
you can
tell
follow
him what's
me.
your social media.
You can follow me on Instagram at the Monster Truck Conductor, as you see there. I also have a page, Bradshaw Design. You'll be able to find it from there. I got a Snapchat. Oh, by the way, Dan, you also forgot you they can find you on Tinder as well, can't they?
And they also can find you on Grindr, Brad.
But yeah, just go give me a like and a follow on Instagram, and you can add me on my Facebook. It's just under Bradley Shaw. Hopefully within I'm working on some ideas with the logo. Hopefully get some shirts out and some decals. Yes, I say decals. Oh God, this again. I had to go through this with Zane Ratu and all the guys when I was down there in the States for the Renegade Tour. Oh my God. Really?
I bet you guys drive semis too, don't you?
Semis.
And Z24s and Z28s.
No, I say Z24, okay? Z24 and Z28, not Z. See, the only way that there was a store here called Zellers, not Zealers, yeah. Zellers.
Yeah.
So, but no, I remember the first time I said Deckel, they're like, what? What'd you say? Like, are you serious right now? So I had to go through that. But yeah, hopefully have decals or decals, sorry, and some shirts within the next couple months with the logo on it. And yeah, just give me a like and a follow. That's all I ask.
And us on the podcast too. We're having decals, decals, or jekels, or hides, whatever they're called over in Canada.
I thought that was part of the hernia check.
Yeah, I think so.
Hold your decals.
So we have also crushed this decals, aka hernia checks, and also we have crew shirts for $100. We have the OG logo and the New Wave logo. We also have t-shirts at abovethecollar.com, but
belowthecollar.com.
Whatever. If you guys find it, but it's been not a lot. I mean, we have t-shirts, but if you guys find it, go ahead. We're gonna probably try to look for another source, but outside of that, yeah, we got some decals and some also some crew shirts. So that we got that going on here too. So the decals are $5 a pop. I got the new ones and the new waves. So be looking at some of those on some of the trucks that we have that's been giving us some awesome free sponsorship. So thank you to all the drivers that have supported us too. Some of the trucks like Overkill Evolution, the Hall Brothers, also Zach Garner and Wildside, Joey Sylvester and Bad Habit, Darren and Kaylin Miguez and others that have put their logos and decals on Buckshot too. Thank you. Thanks, Dan. You're welcome. Buckshot for also putting their decals on too. It's pretty cool to see what they do supporter wise, and also the fans that also buy our supplies, the crew shirts, and also the decals. We got a lot of people that rock the decals on their personal items, and I think that's pretty cool. So thank you for the support for that too. Yeah, Lonnie, I got to put one on there on at least. Fred, you got to at least let me put one of the decals on Bigfoot 4.
Yeah, I don't know if that's part of the contract or not, but we'll have to work on that maybe.
We'll work your people talk to my people. Yeah, your people talk to my people, and then your people have to talk to the Canadian people because they have different rules and regulations also. Yeah, so
maybe I'll make like a Bigfoot logo style one for that, so it kind of matches. So
you guys check out those star plates, another creation.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. Yeah,
nice.
Those are cool.
Check those guys out on Facebook too. They always have great projects.
Yeah, Gene's my marketing manager, Fred. So you go ahead and talk to Gene, and then we're fine comb the details. I know I'm probably gonna get zero money off of this because it's going straight to Gene, but I don't care. Let Gene take care of it. As long as if you guys get a light bar and put instead of the KC, we're gonna put the Crush This, so it's gonna be CS on the light bar. So Gene, do your magic. Put some snake venom in Fred's coffee, and then we'll be all right.
Oh my god!
You can tell it's getting late.
Yeah,
I know. Gene just said I'm fired. Gene just said I'm fired. All right, so I need a new person.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you.
I'm rehired.
Oh, he's rehired. But thank you, everybody, for Gene's. I'm all over it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the podcast. Next week, we have Hot Rod Rodney Tweedy on the show. So come hang out with us. Same time, same place. And I also got to quickly say this. Edmonton Oilers are number 5 in the NHL standings. Let's go, Edmonton. Let's go. I had
Remember
to get
the last time this stuff happened? Someone on the top of the chat said Brad should change his name from Mr. Eggnog. So yeah, that could have been your title name too, there, Brad. Don't I mean, you're happy now. Just don't do any more challenges with your hockey team because your hockey team has failed you.
Yes, but they decided to whip up on Calgary. But that's besides the point, guys. Join us next week, and as we always say on the podcast, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Everybody, peace out.
Also, talk to people.
Talk to people.
Brad forgot.
I also got to quickly mention we're still live. Make sure you check up on your friends and family. Mental health is a very important thing. Make sure if you need help, get the help you need. Okay, you're not going through this alone. There's plenty of us out there that are willing to help you and willing to talk with you, and just reach out to somebody if you're feeling down. All right, everybody, peace.